Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. If you love what you are doing, you will be successful. Good afternoon, everyone. A new day is a new beginning. Today, we are going to start our program where we left yesterday. Today, we will dive deeper into two very important topics. Let us make today just as productive and engaging as yesterday. Our first speaker of day 2 session is Sir Monotapos Dev, TGT Social Science from Bhavan, Tripura. Sir is going to speak on enhancing the skill of social science teacher. Welcome, sir, and start your presentation. After the session of Sir Monotapos Dev, Madam Sreyoshi Singh will sum up the session. Sir, please start your session.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I am audible and visible also.
Madam? Yes, sir, you are audible and visible. Please
Thank
start.
you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Principal Madam, Srimati Swapna Shum, Bharatiya Vidyamandir, Bhavan, Tripura, Vidyamandir, Agartala Kendra. Respected Dr. A.K. Sharma Sir, Education Officer, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. First of all, I want to thank our Principal Madam for giving me this wonderful opportunity to me and think that I am worthy enough to have your precious time regarding this 4-day training program. I am Monotapos Dev, TGT Social Science in Bhavan Tripura Vidyamandir. I am here to present a PowerPoint presentation on the topic enhancing the skills of social science teachers. Social studies primarily includes the subjects of history, geography, civics, economics, through all of that elements of sociology, ethics, psychology, philosophy, anthropology, arts, and literature. All are incorporated into the subject field itself. As I have abbreviated earlier, my topic is enhancing the skills of social science teaching. Here I present my presentation. Thank you all for giving your precious time. Social science teaching is a dynamic and multifaceted field that aims to equip students with knowledge, critical thinking, skills, and cultural awareness needed to navigate our complex world. This presentation will explore a few key strategies and few best practices for effective social science instruction, followed by and collaborative discussion of other important aspects of social science teaching. Here I would like to present, for enhancement of skills of social science teaching, some of the best practices and strategies which, as a social science teacher, I can adopt for a best learning atmosphere. First is active learning, then technology integration, critical thinking and problem solving, assessment strategies, collaborative learning, inquiry-based learning, global perspective, and social responsibility. So these are the few strategies and practices which elaborately I will share with all the dignitaries and teachers present here. Active learning. Active learning has taken modern education and corporate learning and development by storm. It is a learner-centered approach that emphasizes engagement, interaction, and reflection. This paradigm shift from traditional teaching to active learning underscores the learner's role in constructing knowledge. Rather than being just a recipient of information, the learner becomes an active participant in a two-way process, whereby learning is imprinted through memorable, interactive activities and challenges. With today's dynamic global environment, active learning has become more critical than ever before. This teaching approach encourages employees to play an active role in their education, fostering a culture of continuous learning and adaptability, vital in evolving world of work. Active learning is also to engage students through hands-on activities, discussions, debates, role-playing, group projects, and simulations to deepen understanding and critical thinking skills. Technology integration is the next strategy, where to utilize digital tools such as interactive maps, timelines, online primary sources, educational games, and virtual field trips. Third on the list is critical thinking and problem solving. Encourage students to analyze information critically, engage in case studies, Socratic seminars, problem-based learning. Next on the tier is the assessment strategies. Use of authentic assessment rubrics, formative assessments, and peer assessments to evaluate learning, students' learning. Next is collaborative learning, fostering peer interaction. A very important, I personally feel this a very, very important way and one of the best strategy to make a classroom very happy, where collaborative learning present, where teamwork through collaborative projects and peer teaching, online collaboration tools, and cooperative learning structures to promote cooperative learning and knowledge sharing. Inquiry-based learning, where encouraging the students to ask questions on the topics. Global perspective, provide opportunities for students to understand global issues and perspectives. And last but not the least, on the list is the ethics and social responsibility. Teach ethical behavior is teaching every student ethical behavior is very important nowadays. Social responsibilities through discussions on ethical dilemma. So these are the few best practices and strategies as a social science teacher we can adopt to enhance the skills. Active learning. Here are some examples of active learning we can learn and we can apply on the classroom. Number one is debate. Encourage students to research and present arguments on historical and social issues. Role playing. Another important way to engage students in active learning is to act out the historical events or social scenarios to understand perspective. Group projects, collaborative tasks such as creating timelines on researching cultural traditions. Simulations, use of simulations like mock trials or historical reenactments to immerse students in learning. These are the active learning processes which a teacher of social science can apply on his or her students. Next, another important is technology integration. Today we see how important is technology and how important the integration of technology in every field, may it be health, may it be administration and education. It is the most important tool for education nowadays, the use of technology. It is defined as the use of technology to enhance and support the educational environment. Technology integration in the classroom can also support classroom instruction by creating opportunities for students to complete assignments on computer rather than normal pen and paper or pencil. In a larger sense, technology interaction can also use to refer to a use of different applications in the management of a school to integrate different applications in one server, so from where all the students and all the teachers and everybody can access the data. Interactive maps and timelines visualizes historical events or geographical data dynamically. Online primary sources and archives, which access to authentic historical documents and artifacts. Educational games and quizzes, which also enable students to learn with interactive quizzes and educational games. And virtual field trips. It is one of the another important aspect which we can see around, exploring museums, historical sites or cultural landmarks virtually, everything. My next presentation on this is critical thinking and problem solving. Critical thinking and problem solving, it encourages students to analyze information critically and develop solutions to complex problems. Some of the examples to carry out these strategies is, number one is case study. Analyze historical or social issues to understand multiple perspectives. Socratic seminars, it's very important to facilitate discussions where student can ask and answer open-minded questions. Problem-based learning, where engaging students in real-world problem to develop practical solutions. Reflective journaling, encourage students to reflect on their learning experiences and insights gained. Critical thinking is a rich concept that has been developing throughout the past 2,500 years. The term critical thinking has its root in the mid-late 20th century. Below, we offer overlapping definitions which together form a substantive and transdisciplinary conception of critical thinking. My next issue on this topic is differentiated instruction. Now, what is differentiated instruction? Differentiated instruction, it reflects on tailoring of teaching methods and content to meet diverse learning needs and styles. One thing which will have a different and diverse perspective. Number one example I would like to present before the platform and all the dignitaries here is the learning centers. Designing of stations with varied activities to cater to different learning preferences. Tiered assignments. Assign tasks of varying complexity based on students' readiness. Flexible grouping. It's a most important one while we group students for any kind of activities. It has to be very flexible. organize students into small groups based on interests or learning goals. Universal design for learning, which prompt us to use multiple means of representation, engagement, and expression to support diverse learners. To know your learner, to access your learner, adjustable assignments, questioning, and curriculum approaches. These explains the differentiated instruction. One instruction given in a different way, that is differentiated instruction. Next on the list is the cultural competence and sensitivity. Recognizing and respecting cultural diversity. In a classroom, there are different people, students rather, who are from different cultural backgrounds, different social background. They see different kind of practices in their locality. So recognizing and respecting cultural diversity to create inclusive learning environment in the classroom. Here are some examples. Number one is multicultural resources and materials, which includes the incorporation of literature, music, and art from diverse culture. Culturally responsive teaching practices adapt teaching methods to reflect students' cultural backgrounds. This is very important. And next is the student-led discussion and presentations. Encouraging students to share their cultural perspective throughout any project or any kind of assignment which could be given to a student. And the student will particularly present his or her culture in the classroom. Service learning projects, engaging students in community-based projects that addresses local and cultural issues. We can adopt different assessment strategies also. Some are summative assessments and some are formative assessments. Different assessment strategies can be adopted by a social science teacher to assess a student throughout the year. It is a method to evaluate student learning and understanding effectively. Some of the examples are cited. Number one is authentic assessment. Assessments that reflect real-world tasks or application of knowledge. Rubrics, clear criteria for evaluating student performance on projects or presentations. Next is formative assessments, where ongoing assessments during instruction to monitor a student's progress. A graph will be a better representation of the progress of the students for the assessment from beginning of the session to the end of the session. The data can be represented through a graph, which will show the rise or the fall of the student. Peer assessment, student where is provided with the feedback. The student provide feedback to each other on projects or presentations. A student who is presenting a social issue as a project on the classroom, and the remaining students, they will feedback the presenting student on the presentation. Next is collaborative learning. Now, collaborative learning is, I personally think it is a very, very important nowadays a strategy to use on students for a better understanding and learning, where practicals are most important. There are number of examples which I have tried to cite here, and I want to present before all of you about this. Collaborative learning, it means a learning approach which involves people working together on activities or learning tasks in a group small enough to ensure that everyone participates. Pupils in the group may work on separate tasks contributing to a common overall outcome or work together on a shared task. Some will work on particular tasks, some other group of students will work on particular task. A task, everybody in the group will have a common goal to complete the task, and for that, different activities can be done by different students. Learning through peer interaction and teamwork to achieve common learning goal, it's very important. Number one example cited is the group assignments that require cooperation and division of tasks. CBSE for the last 3-4 years is emphasizing on art integration projects and different other projects which should be done by students in group. So group assignment require a cooperation and division of tasks. Peer teaching. Students teach and explain concepts to each other to deepen understanding. Online collaboration tools. Use of digital platform for shared documents, editing, or group discussions, which is often done nowadays, as technology is integrated in education in every possible way. Cooperative learning. Strategies like think, pair, share, or jigsaw to promote collaboration. It is another important example of collaborative learning. Here, I would like to share one video on the what is the result of a collaborative learning. Ultimately, the achievement of the goal will be the main issue for all the students. So I would request to give me a few seconds to share the video. So here we have witnessed how the meerkats were very much desperate about the fruit they were looking for, and ultimately it was achieved with the teamwork. So here, collaborative learning and cooperative learning is very important for the students. This kind of skills we can apply on students, which will help them to understand better, and it will also help them to in their future, as they will be sharing the responsibilities and all that. Next is inquiry based learning, which also encourages students to ask questions, to inquire about the topic, investigate and explore topics independently. It should be student-centered, collaborative, critical thinking, constructive theories, which all combine to form inquiry-based learning. Inquiry-based learning is a learning process that engages students by making real-world connections through exploration and high-level questioning. It is an approach to learning that encourages students to engage in problem solving and experiential learning. Some of the examples by which we can adopt inquiry-based learning is research project, where assignments, where students and formulate research questions and find answers. Inquiry labs, scientific investigations or historical inquiries conducted by students. Questioning techniques teach students to ask probing questions to guide their learning. Problem-solving scenarios present real-world problems for students to research and solve. These are the few steps we can adopt for better enhancement of social science teaching. My next is ethics and social responsibility. Ethics and social responsibility is a kind of an important practice which teach our students, which is to teach our students the ethical behavior and responsibility towards the society. As a social science teacher, we explain them different topic from the political science of class 9, class 8, class 10, or any other classes, where important and sensitive issues, when it is taught, and it has to be a learning process where not only rote learning only for exam, it should not be adopted. There are different issues like dowry, like domestic violence, like democracy, like politics. What is to be done after joining politics? What is the real meaning of democracy? Not only to vote, but to vote wisely. So all these issues and all these ethics should be incorporated in the student during the social science classes. Not only in political science, but in every other discipline of social science, like geography, like history, like economics, and all that. Here are some examples from the ethics and social responsibility. Ethical dilemmas. Discussing historical or contemporary ethical challenges. Next is civic engagement projects. Encourage students to participate in community service or advocacy. Students of our school and different other schools, they participate in civic engagement projects like cleaning up the nearby establishments or nearby market areas, serving people with any kind of services, providing water to thirsty people, any kind of social and or civic engagement projects which will boost up the social responsibility sense of the students. Role playing ethical decisions, stimulating scenarios where students make ethical decisions, what to be done and what not to be done in a certain situation or in a certain time. Debates on social issues, engaging students in debates on social justice or human rights. We can arrange youth parliament where all the students will be playing the role of different elected representatives, and they will be discussing on different social sensitive issues where justice is denied, where justice is delayed, where justice is made, how justice to be made, how to solve the issues, how to solve the problems. These all are very good tool to engage a student in an ethical and socially responsible. The issues of human rights are also to be incorporated inside the students. Next is reflective practice. It means that continuously evaluating teaching methods and outcomes to improve the practices. If a method that I have applied on my students, if it is not working, try to move on to another method. Here, reflective practices, it's a cycle of reflective practices: description, feeling, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, and it starts with the action plan. Now, reflective practices are methods and techniques that help individuals and groups reflect their experiences and actions in order to engage in a process of continuous learning. Some of the examples I have cited here is teaching journals, peer observation, action research, professional development workshops. Number one, with teacher journals, reflecting on daily teaching experiences, challenges, and successes. Number two is peer observation by receiving inputs from colleagues on teaching practices, which is a very important. Taking feedbacks from colleagues, senior colleagues, and fellow colleagues. What are the different methods for a particular student a teacher can adopt to take out the outcome from the student? Action research is conduct research within the classroom to test and refine teaching strategies. Professional development and workshop. Now, it is very important. Attend workshops to learn new teaching techniques and strategies. CBSE is providing different online programs. We are being part of different in-house sessions, programs, and online sessions where we can adopt from different teachers and resource persons their experiences, where they share how they have dealt with a particular issue, which we can note down and we can adopt it and can apply it on our particular way. Community and family engagement. It means involving families and communities in students' educational experiences, like family events. Invite families to participate in cultural and historical celebrations. Community partnerships, where collaborate with local organizations for educational programs. Parent workshop, offer workshops on social science topics or educational strategies. Volunteer opportunities, engage families in school activities or community service projects. Not only the students, but also engaging the family is one such method or strategy that we, social science teacher, can engage, can apply. Adaptive learning environments. Next is professional growth and collaboration. That means it is a continuous learning and collaboration among educators to improve teaching practices. Example number one is professional learning communities, where to collaborate with colleagues on teaching strategies, mentoring programs like pair experienced teachers with new teachers for guidance and support. It is very, very important to remain under a very, very experienced teacher, for a new teacher to remain under a very experienced teacher to learn the methods. Conferences and workshops, attend professional development events to learn new skills. Very important. And action research group, where conducting research with colleagues to improve instructional practices. Two teachers instructing the same thing to two different classes. In one class, a very experienced teacher, which we think that the students in that classroom will be more adaptive because this teacher is a little more experienced. Where on the other hand, if a new teacher may face some issues while instructing, because the experienced teacher know the nerves of the student. The experienced teacher know how to control the class, make them quiet, and make them engaged. Not out of fear, but out of excitement. Students will be excited to listen from the teacher. New social science teacher can learn from the experienced teachers. It is not necessary that only from experienced social science teacher only social science new teachers will learn. It is not necessary. Instructional methods can be learned from any experienced teacher of any discipline. Integrating social emotional learning, teaching skills such as self-awareness, empathy, and responsible decision making, where teaching lessons on emotions, relationships, and ethical behavior. Conflict resolution strategies, which will help students to resolve conflicts peacefully and respectfully. Mindfulness activities, practicing techniques to manage stress and improve focus. Service learning projects, like engage in community service to develop empathy and compassion. These are the few effective and simple strategies for integrating social emotional learning. I have almost come to the end of my presentation. And here I have come with the end of my presentation. I hope I could connect to you through my subject and justify my topic. So before I end this session, I want to conclude with few points. Number one is effective social science teaching involves active learning, technology integration, and differentiated instruction. Not all the students will listen or take the instruction in a same way. Critical thinking, cultural competence, and ethical considerations are essential for holistic education. And the action required is to encourage educators to implement these strategies to create engaging and inclusive learning environments. I hope that I have justified with the time given to me, with all the listeners, and I hope I could also justify with my topic. Here, I would like to conclude my presentation with all my heart, and thank you so much, Bhavan Tripura Vidyamandir. Thank you so much, Principal Madam, Srimati Swapna Shobh Madam, to giving me this opportunity to present my content before all the dignitaries here present in this platform. And last but not the least, once again, Dr. A.K. Sharma sir, thank you for listening to me in this time. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And
Thank you, sir.
after all this,
Please continue.
after all this presentation and all whatever strategy we apply, but I would like to conclude my presentation with small little line, is that social science or any other science, the secret ingredient is love. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was an excellent presentation, sir. Your presentation was uplifting and motivating. Thank you for sharing your vision. Now, Madam Suyushi Sen will sum up the session of Sir Monuta Pushpa. Suyushi ma'am, please start.
A warm good evening to all the dignitaries and teachers present in this platform. Thank you, sir, for such a motivating and informative session on enhancing the skills of social science teachers. As pointed out by sir, that the arena of social science is vast, and to develop a meaningful social science teaching, the teachers must have a critical understanding of the society. Social science teaching is a dynamic and multifaceted field that aims to equip the students with the knowledge, critical thinking skills, cultural awareness to navigate our complex society. Sir has pointed out few practices and strategies like active learning, where hand-to-hand activities, discussions, debates, role-playing, group projects can be done. Sir has also highlighted various technological integration like digital tools, including integrative maps, timelines, visual field trips, which can be arranged by the teachers. Various assessment strategies like rubrics, formative and summative assessments, peer assessments can be conducted by the teacher. Critical thinking and problem-solving skills should be encouraged among the students. Peer interaction and teamwork should be fostered through collaborative projects, peer teaching, online collaborative tools, and cooperative learning structure. Inquiry-based learning need to be practiced, and lessons should be taught in global perspective. Through courses, ethical behavior and social responsibility need to be nurtured. Thus, continuous teaching learning collaboration among educators will improve the teaching practices. Hence, effective social science teaching involves active learning, technological integration, and differentiated instruction. I must say that sir has presented a wonderful video based on collaborative learning, which can be inculcated in the classes. Sir has also spoken about cultural competency and sensitivity, which means to encourage the students to showcase their cultural activities. And the cycle of reflective practices, which was highlighted by sir, can be done by the teachers. Henceforth, we can mention that educators need to be encouraged to implement these strategies so that an engaging and inclusive learning environment can be created. Lastly, sir has concluded that educators or the facilitators need to address the queries about implementing strategies in the classroom, and they should discuss the potential challenges and appropriate solutions to it. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Sriyoshi ma'am. It was excellent. We are so impressed with your attention to detail. Ladies and gentlemen, now I am going to invite Madam Sunita, Senior Social Science Teacher, Bharatiya Vidyavan, Vidhashram, Jaipur, to start her presentation. Madam will be speaking on critical thinking and cultural sensitivity in social science. Welcome, ma'am. Please go ahead and start your presentation. Madam Sunita.
Thank you, Nilanjana ma'am. Namaskar, everyone. I hope everyone is able to cope up with school and all these activities going on simultaneously, because it gets really tiring. 6 hours of school and then 2 hours of this. But again, this is a good learning opportunity for all of us. So I must compliment all the speakers who spoke yesterday also, and Sir Tapesh sir today also. So the sessions have been wonderful and really enriching. So for that, I guess Bhavan's Tripura Vidyamandir really deserves a huge compliment. So Nilanjana ma'am, congratulations. Please accept.
Thank you.
I also thank Dr. A.K. Sharma for providing us this opportunity during this 4-day session. Namaskar, sir, because this help us, reach new horizons, exploring our own self and our skills, enhancing our skills, which so far, we have been in touch with our own school teachers, we have been working amongst ourselves, but platforms like this connect us on a larger scale to teach us beyond our own boundaries and our own school. Now, my topic for today is critical thinking and cultural sensitivity in social science. So let's begin. And to start with, I'll start with a small video to show how diverse nature is. That is the first thing that we need to understand. Now, this video, if we have been going through the lines, gives a very clear, a very subtle message with so much of melody. The music was refreshing, but the important aspect which we have seen here is that the nature comprises of diversity. So what we see is that diversity is natural. It is bound to be there. It is not a threat, but a critical requirement for the survival of Earth and human beings. All living forms are dependent on each other for their existence and growth. We have been making charts, while our junior classes, like when we were studying, and even when if you are taking class 6, 7, we do make charts of interdependence, how different life forms are interdependent on each other. Like we have charts or we have different examples, algae and a tree. They are dependent on each other. The algae depends on the tree for shelter, whereas the tree depends on the algae for nourishment, right? So these are symbiotic relationships which different life forms have with each other. Likewise, human beings also depend on each other to fulfill their various needs. Now I request Neelangela ma'am, if all participants have the rights to unmute themselves, because I'll need some participation from the teachers here. And I request teachers to give me some examples of interdependence between human beings. You can unmute yourself, teachers. Neelangela ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, so can we have a few participants or teachers who can give some examples of interdependence of human beings? This session that we are conducting itself is a big example of interdependence.
Ma'am, on the lighter note, I would say interdependence on our maids that we are actually.
Yes, wonderful. That's
Though on a
really
lighter note, but yes, in the school, the students are dependent on the teachers. Teachers are dependent on the administrations. Like
perfect.
this way, it can go on and on and on. Like,
Yes, all of us are
Yeah.
interdependent, right?
Yes,
Even in
yes,
society, you see when we have, in joint families, especially the earlier setup, a younger generation like ours was dependent on, our in-laws, so that they take care of our children when we go out for work. And these older people or elderly citizens, they were dependent on us or our children for their emotional fulfillment, so that they have a sense of being of use to the family. They have a purpose of existence. So somewhere all of us as human beings are fulfilling each other's needs, and we are interdependent in the system. Thank you, Mamta ma'am. Thank you so much for this
you're
lively.
most welcome. I was just on a lighter note, I said that.
No, perfectly okay. That's how. But see, this interdependence, how it happens or why it happens. This interdependence happens because all of us have diverse set of skills. We are different from each other, We are capable of fulfilling each other's because we have developed different skills. Like, let's say, if I have to give this presentation, probably I may take the help of the IT teacher, because the IT teacher has a different skill set. I have a different skill set. So sometimes I may help the teacher in preparing the lesson. The teacher may help in preparing my PPTs and other kind of presentations. So all of us, have a different set of skills and a belief system. Now this happens because of diversity in nature. That is what we have to understand. This diversity in nature is in various forms. It is in the form of physiographic divisions or climate, and thus animal and plant life also. This diversity affects our living. I'll share one example of how this diversity affects our living. Like, let's say people who are living in, Rajasthan. So Rajasthan, that is my state, is comparatively a drier state. You have less of rains. The soil is desert type. So the crops that we grow here are bajra or gram. So the staple food diet is bajra. Whereas in states of Punjab and Haryana, where the soil is alluvial, where the water is available in plenty, so the staple diet there is wheat. You see, so the diversity of nature, of physiographic divisions, has actually created diversity in the food we eat. Fine. Now, similarly, this diversity can be seen in various forms, like the clothes we wear, like the houses we live in, we build the houses, and also the occupations we take up. So anybody who wants to share, I would really love all of you to participate. So please do tell me what kind of diversities we have, what affect, how this diversity affects our lifestyle. This diversity affects the clothes we wear. So can anyone please share any example? The houses we build, the occupations we follow, how these are affected by diversity around us.
Ma'am, may I say something? I'm Shampa Sen from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Kolkata.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. Ma'am, in the school here, I'm going to share my experience,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
will give you the example of interdependence as well as diversities.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So sometimes early in the morning, when my maid remains absent, all of a sudden she says that I won't be able to come. I
Okay.
ask my group of friends to
Yes.
bring something for me
Okay.
because I'm not in the was a diversity for myself.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
I tasted South Indian food, and someday
Yes.
it may be the other way around. So
Yes.
their maid absent, or maybe because of some other reason, she could not make her lunch properly. She requested me to bring something.
Yes.
I brought paratha and then say chole for her.
Okay.
So this is one kind of interdependence as well as diversity also.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, perfectly okay. Anyone else?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for participating. Okay. So
You are welcome, ma'am.
So what we have here is, that this diversity of climatic conditions or physiographic conditions, this affects our living. As ma'am has been talking about, that people get different food items in tiffins, right? So those food items, they have not developed today. Those food items have been developed over generations. You see, the knowledge of how to build a house in hills. Normally, if you have been to hills, what we see is that in hills, nowadays, though they are using cement and concrete and other things, but the traditional construction material which they use would be the local grass, the local bamboo or the wood, and then probably the local mud mixed with some adhesive so that it stays strong. But the important element was that in hills, normally they would try that the construction is not very heavy on the hills. Whereas in plains, they can use heavy material like bricks and other things because in plains there is not much of an issue. And we can also understand this, the impact of diversity, because what happened, if you people remember Joshi Mutt incident that happened, which because of lots of cement and concrete construction, the hills were affected and people had to vacate the place, right? So, people had over generations, people had actually gathered this wisdom that if we are living in these kind of circumstances, this is the food we are going to eat. This is the kind of cloth that we are going to use. Like in hills, they use more of warm clothes. In plains, they use cotton. Whereas if we move from, let's say, Rajasthan, which is a comparatively, area with high temperatures, towards West Bengal, where you have too much of humidity. So the kind of cotton that they use in West Bengal will be different from the kind of cotton that they are using in Rajasthan. One would be thicker and the other would be thinner, because humidity does not permit to wear such thick clothes, right? Likewise, heat does not allow you to wear very thin clothes that can affect your body. So communities developed this understanding and knowledge over generations of what to wear, what to eat, how to live, the value system. So this collective understanding of the community built over time is what is known as culture. Am I clear? Have I been able to make my point clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Now, this culture, let's say, so far we have been knowing about, okay, people in South have a different culture, people in North have a different culture, or East or West have a different culture. And probably what happens, people in East and West also have a different culture. But with passage of time, as technology has advanced, as we have more of economic prosperity, as things have changed, urbanization is there, industrialization is there, we see multiple layers of culture have also developed. Like you have an urban culture and a rural culture. Like you have a poor and a rich culture. Like you have a corporate culture and a public sector culture. So even culture has become multi-layered now, right? Now, since human life has evolved so much, and all of us are part of this huge ecosystem, it needs to run smoothly and in a balanced way, where all of us are able to contribute to the system as well as we are able to gain from the system. This is possible only when we know each other. When we know each other, obviously we will be sensitive towards each other's existence, and thus it is important to be culturally sensitive so that we can help each other grow. Now, this cultural sensitivity actually works at two levels. Cultural sensitivity would mean sensitizing, or first, let's say, creating awareness towards culture, and then sensitizing people towards culture, right? This sensitivity, this cultural sensitivity has two aspects. One is towards my own culture. I should be sensitive towards my own culture. And then I have to be sensitive towards the culture of other people. So it is like at a personal level, and then it is working at a community level. So the cultural sensitivity is working at two different levels. Now, why cultural sensitivity towards our own culture? Why is it important?
अग्नि में अनाज क्यों डाला? वो भगवान तक पहुंचता है। अग्नि को भगवान का पता है? हाँ?
Just a moment, huh? Why that? It's not problem. Can we just...
ये अग्नि में अनाज क्यों डाला? वो भगवान तक पहुंचता है। अग्नि को भगवान का पता है? हाँ? हम रोज मंदिर क्यों जाते हैं? मंदिर नहीं दरअसल हवेली कहते हैं। किसकी बात है? जी, माँ बाबू हिम्मत क्यों करती है? उनको दूसरों की बुरी नजर ना लगे इसलिए। मुझे ऐसी हिम्मत का क्या मतलब? जिससे उनको ही न चढ़ना है। वो ये शिवजी बाबा के बाजू में कौन है? वल्लभाचार्य, जिन्होंने हमारे धर्म की स्थापना की थी। वो इस तरफ यमुना महारानी जी, शिवनाथ जी की बहन। हम इतने सवाल पूछा कैसे करोगे? चलो हाथ जोड़ो। ये शिवजी बाबा, मेरे पर्सनल ध्यान रखो। शिवजी बाबा को गुजराती आती है? वो हमारे गांव से है।
Okay, now I hope you enjoyed this video, though I have been really enjoying this, because this video shows a very sensitive child, an innocent child, who's lost in the world of elders. Normally, we take children along with us and we keep on directing, okay, do this, okay, do this, okay, do this. Even when they're, going to the temple or sitting with us in some puja, we Do not answer the questions. If you see if you've seen in the video, the child was quite inquisitive. The child had questions in mind. Right. Now, what happens so many times when these children do not understand what is happening around them, and their questions are either ignored or not answered properly, or answered in a way that lacks logical explanations. So this is happening to our society now. As a result, this child feels lost. This child doesn't know, grows up not knowing where to go, how to behave, and is not able to figure out about his life also. They're lost with things. So I guess this video gives us quite a reason to understand why the children need to be sensitized about their own culture first. So would someone like to give me few reasons after watching this video why we need to sensitize children towards their own culture?
Ma'am, I would like to say again, I'm sorry.
No,
that
ma'am.
yes, like first, if they know their own culture and they respect their own culture, they know the depth of their own culture, only then they will be able to respect the other culture or any other tradition, whatever they come across with. Okay, because first we need to respect our things, and then only we will be able to understand the importance of others. So first thing is, like, we should be having our students and our children to know what our culture is basically. It's like we have cultural exchange programs in our schools. So first thing is our students know what our culture is, and when they go to the other schools, there they perform, they learn their culture, and then they share their own culture. So in that way, they are respecting both the cultures, and they come out with so many commonalities are there in between those two cultures, and what are the different things in the two culture. They understand it in a very nice way. They are able to grasp everything in a very nice way, rather than just going on telling do this, do that, and like rote memory type. It should not be like that. The first hand experience should be there. मंदिर है तो क्यों जा रहे हैं मंदिर, हम क्यों प्रे कर रहे हैं God को,
Right.
why we believe in God, all that should be explained to them properly. Only then they will be able to respect that.
Right. Wonderful, ma'am. Anyone else? Anybody else who's interested in responding or probably adding to what Mamta ma'am has said? Okay, fine. Now, you see, an important reason why this cultural sensitivity is important, should be there. The first reason is identity. If we have a look at the scenario that was presented in the video, it is the very identity of the child. Your culture, your cultural group gives you the identity. Like this video is obviously has been taken from a movie, but it talks about the Vaishnav group, right? So all of us have that identity. It can be, whether you are a tribal or you are an urban person, or let's say you belong to Kerala or you belong to Gujarat or you are a Himachali, whatsoever. But every cultural group has an identity of its own. So we need to sensitize children towards their own identity or own culture, because culture provides them with an identity of belonging to a certain group. If we explain our culture to our children, they will accept this identity, as Mamta ma'am has said. Otherwise, unanswered questions may lead them astray. Mind you, here, culture and religion, they are two different things. Let's not mix culture with religion. Culture has more to do with the way of life. What is your lifestyle like, as we talked about? What we wear, what we eat, the values, the way we behave. That is more of culture. Religion has to do more with your belief system, like according to you, who's the supreme power? The supreme power you worship, how you connect with that supreme power. So that is more of religion. So let's not mix these two things. Now, second reason why we need to sensitize children towards their own culture, or we should sensitize towards our own culture, is discipline. As we have seen in the video, culture makes a routine for you. You get up early in the morning, like we have in our own Indian culture. We get up early in the morning. We keep on telling children, "Subah utna chahiye, suraj dekhna chahiye." That is more of a part of our culture. So culture creates a discipline in your life by setting rules, and thus it makes our life journey easy. Normally, when we have those rules set for us, we don't have much of choice. Like, for example, our culture would obviously tell us how we should behave with our elders. In India, normally we touch the feet of the elders, and that's across the nation, I guess, whatever state we go, right? So there is the respect that we have towards our elders. Likewise, how should we behave towards our younger ones also? There is, a saying in Hindi, "Shama badan ko chahiye, chotan ko utpaat." Now, this one simple thing tells us how we are supposed to behave as elders and how we are supposed to behave as the younger ones. So, this also guides us. Our culture also guides us, our role in social institutions. Like, let's say if I'm a mother, so what is my responsibility towards my children? I'm a daughter-in-law. What is my responsibility towards my in-laws? I'm a wife. So what is my responsibility or duty towards my husband? And it is likewise, vice versa. Even there are duties assigned to my husband, to my in-laws, to my children, towards me as well. So we know our role in our social institutions only because of our culture. So, this really helps us discipline our life. Now, next thing is transfer of knowledge. Culture helps us transfer our knowledge. It's important to be sensitive towards our culture because culture helps in restoration and preservation and transfer of knowledge from one generation to another generation. Language is a part of our culture. Once we lose our language, we lose an entire culture. Or it can be vice versa. You lose a culture and you lose the entire language. Okay, now loss of language is not just loss of language. A loss of language means the entire wisdom that was gathered over generations, centuries by people of that cultural group, that also has been lost. I'm sure across India, we have some folk songs which we sing at the time of, like Graha Pravesh, housewarming, or when we have songs at the time of marriage, when the child takes birth, we have ceremonies for that. So all these songs, if you listen to them carefully, these songs provide us with knowledge and information about what is our responsibility in the new role. Once we lose that song, we also lose touch to that information or knowledge that was restored in those songs. Ladies Sangeet used to happen, and Ladies Sangeet used to be a good, way of training the bride as well as the groom. But nowadays, when we have Ladies Sangeet, you have songs from the movies. So people are simply enjoying dancing and music. The important aspect for which Ladies Sangeet was conducted, the transformation of knowledge of that culture for the groom and bride in the new role, how they are supposed to behave, we have lost touch to that. Now, influence of other cultures. With passage of time, we have these, say, Netflix or social media platforms, and then market forces. You go to the market and you have so many things to buy, so many things that attract you, so much of things, serials or series that we are watching on TVs. All these things have an influence on us, and this is, let's say, the children are not, or even we as elders are not picking all these things up intentionally. This is all an unintentional attack also, or let's say we are losing our culture unintentionally. But somewhere we have to understand that the more we get in touch with these influences, the more we are leaving our culture behind, right? So there is an urgent need that we pull ourselves back, relate to our own culture, or pull our children back. Right. Now, probably it's not about criticizing the other culture. When I say McDonald's culture or the Netflix series culture or the ultra rich culture or the Western culture, it's not about criticizing them. It's about what has been considered good and best for this group of people or this land of people. I'll give you one example. You know, India got industrialized much later than the Western powers. Western countries have gone through industrialization in a much earlier phase. As a result, they have been through all the impact. Women started working, families becoming nuclear, migration from rural to urban areas, and then slowly now you see. I mean, initially it was the families breaking up, then husband and wife not living together, then children also not living together. So a kind of thing that has developed in those cultures is that the elderly parents are not living with the family. Old age homes are a very, very common thing in Western societies. But when we talk of the same thing in Indian context, we may be using those things for compulsions. But even today, in our system, we consider that the grandparents or the elderly citizens should be with the family because we understand their need in the family. And so far, we have been able to protect our system. So it's not about criticizing the other system. It is about basically understanding what they have gone through and thus the changes, but mindlessly. We should not be adopting the changes that have come there. Another thing you can see is of the live-in relationships which are there. So for Western countries, it's very, very easy. I mean, it's a norm. People people do live like that only, live in relationships where young boys probably at times, 16, 18, they have those live-in relationships and then they start their families also. But those kind of values, those kind of systems are not appreciated much in India, even when we have, quite people who are quite young, people who are in their 20s or 30s, even when they go for live-in relationships, we don't appreciate that much in India. And that is because of the difference of culture. But we have to understand that all these things have an influence on our culture. Right. Now, in so many cases, why this is happening is because of the absence of parents. And why I say absence of parents or the elderly people in the family, they are absent from the child's life. The child does not have much of time with the parents or with the elderly citizens of the family. It may be because of urbanization, pressures of urbanization. We have smaller houses, probably less income, so we are not able to take our grandparents or the in-laws with us. Likewise, we have nuclear families where both the parents, husband as well as wife, they have to go and work. Then new work cultures where we have, working till late, there are night shifts. And so many times you see in areas like these metro cities where husband is working one shift, coming home, taking food alone from the fridge, and the wife is going for the other shift. So they are hardly able to meet. So when they are not meeting with each other, obviously in so many cases you see they are not even meeting the child. So the child doesn't have much of family interactions. And because these cultural interactions in the family are reduced, the festivals or other occasions are not much celebrated. Right? For working people, especially, you see a festival is less of a festival, but more of a holiday where we try to relax or finish the pending work that we have about the house or the office or whatever. So, these festivals are the occasions which are not much celebrated or there is complete absence of rituals. Market decoration items, market sweets, and shopping takes the center stage. And the festival becomes more about new dresses and decorations rather than the rituals or why we have these festivals or the rituals and why should we perform them. We are not much interested into all that. We actually miss, this is the time, when we actually miss the opportunity to explain our culture to upcoming generations and fail to create a cultural bond with the new generation or the next generation. So this is one thing which all of us, must take care. In fact, in Rajasthan, we have this festival called Gangor. On Gangor, we do not have a holiday. So it's like the puja is done in the morning and then we rush to the school. What I have seen, most of the children, of class 10, class 9, They are not aware of these kind of pujas being conducted. They are not even aware of why this is conducted, how this is conducted. And when I had an interaction with the children about their families, what we got to know was that even at home, either it is the mother who's doing the puja alone, or if she's working somewhere out in the office, so it's just a ceremony of 5 minutes and they quickly rush to the office ki kaam khatam karo, puja khatam karo. It has become more of a work or a burden rather than a ritual to be celebrated or an occasion to be celebrated, right? So these are a few of the reasons why we feel it is important to sensitize children towards their own culture, right? So my next question, I hope you people are not annoyed with the number of questions I'm asking, but my next question is, can you suggest some ways how do we sensitize children? How do we sensitize children towards their own culture? How do we sensitize children towards their own culture?
Can I speak, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, sure, please.
Yeah, I'm from Bhavan Vidyalaya, Chandigarh. Yeah, by celebrating such festivals in the school premises, we can sensitize them. And I think most of the schools do that also, the celebration of these festivals. But as we do bigger festivals, we can start doing them with some other ones also, which are not so much highlighted. So
Right.
that's one way. And another is we can just, if it's not that possible, we can show certain small clips, videos in the school, or talk about them in the assembly, or in the classes. Teachers can sensitize them
Right.
about our culture. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Sonia ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's true. To sensitize children towards their own culture, what I believe the work can be done at two levels. One is the role of family and society, and the other is the role of schools and teachers. So, as far as sensitizing children towards their own culture is concerned, I believe the role of family and society is much more important than the role of school and teachers. No doubt they do have a role, but the family and society has a bigger role. So while the family gatherings can be used, for such occasions, there can be compulsive, like let's say, it can be made a tradition in the family. Okay, we can decide that if we can't sit together for all the functions, at least these 3 pujas we are going to conduct together, and these gatherings can be used, for explaining rituals to children, or why we are celebrating these festivals, or those kind of things. Also, I guess, when I guess all of us, when we were young, there used to be an occasion, bedtime kind of a thing, and at night we would sit together, share our experiences as children. But this can be done even instead of bedtime stories. The parents or the elderly people can share their experiences with the children, that how when they were children, what kind of cultural practices were there, how they used to enjoy time or learn from their elders, or let's say why any special thing, let's say why should we eat the food available in our region. For example, you have groundnut oil in Gujarat, or we have sarson in Punjab and Haryana, or we have coconut oil in the southern states, right? So why we are using all these things? So these kind of smaller explanations, probably with some stories or other examples, or taking some real life incidents, they can be shared with the children, so that children get to know about their culture, they get to know about their identity, like why we are wearing a certain type of clothes. That also can be discussed with the children. So the role of family and society here becomes much more important. No doubt the role of schools, as ma'am discussed, it cannot be ignored completely, because schools, the child spends majority time in the school itself. So it is very, very important that the school also owns up the responsibility, and we do take up some kind of activities where we explain, like I guess Diwali is celebrated in schools across India. On whatever scale we do it, chota hai, bada hai, but hum karte hain. Ramlila kind of things, they should be celebrated in schools. Likewise, we have heritage clubs. Like what I did recently in my school was that we have heritage club. So I asked children, I said, okay, those of you who either know or you do not know, but learn about some cultural traditions. And in the next of the classes, which are club periods that we are going to have, so you can, come here with all the things required, like puja ki thali lekar aa sakte hain, tilak, chawal, ghas, roli, jo bhi kuch aapko chahiye, you get that to school. Know about that story that we normally tell during such puja, and get everything, learn, ask your parents, and you will be performing that puja in school. Whatever religion or culture is not important. Important is that children get to know what are their basics, what are their roots. So these schools can have different kind of things, Also, we can see missionary schools in so many ways. They are already doing this thing, that culture is being taught to students in some or the other way. And when I say missionary schools, I don't only mean the schools, Christian schools, no. It's also about, like, you have Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan is very well promoting the Indian culture. So even we are a missionary school, missionary schools. Then you have DAV schools, the Anand Anglo-Vedic schools, which are also emphasizing on and focusing on Indian culture. Like, there are few schools, DAV schools, which I know that they perform Havans regularly. So every day one class goes to perform the Havan. Slowly children pick up the language, pick up the prayers, and as they grow up, so many of them, at least I would say, if they are not able to recite the prayer independently, they are able to convey the meaning, the values that are being talked about independently. So the schools can also, take up all these responsibilities and use different ways to create this cultural sensitivity. Now, it's important, that we make the child feel proud of his culture, because once the child is confident about his or her own culture, the child starts respecting other cultures. When I'm happy with what I am, when I'm confident with what I am, when I'm strong enough to feel what I am, obviously I'm in a better position. So I am more likely to respect other cultures. I'm more likely to be comfortable with their existence. I'm more likely to connect to them. So it is not only, that it is about forcing children to come together. First thing is, we have to give that confidence to the child about his or her own identity, about his or her own culture, and thus, we can work towards creating sensitivity towards other cultures. So sensitizing children towards their own culture is the first step to sensitizing them to other cultures or other communities, right? Now here again, I'm sorry, but I have another question for all of you, that why cultural sensitivity towards other cultures is important. Why do we feel that it is important to have cultural sensitivity towards others?
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
actually in India, there are diverse culture.
Yes,
Diverse people are living, ma'am. If I will not respect other cultures, there will be no unity, and there will be lawlessness, chaos, and confusions in the society.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is a proverb that you alone cannot live happily unless and until your neighbors are happy.
Right.
So that's why it is the duty, being a teacher, social science teacher, being a mother, it is our duty, my duty, to enrich my child, to teach my child, or to inculcate that habit to respect own culture, his own culture, as well as to others' culture. It is said by Mother Teresa, charity begins at home. First of all, you should love yourselves. You should love your culture. You should love your family. And when you will do it, it will be easier for yourselves to respect others. I think.
Yes, perfectly okay, Niranjana ma'am. And I guess I can add one line to it. It says, alone I'm beautiful, but together we are magical.
Yes.
You know, so that's how it is. And Nilanjana ma'am, I must, I really, when I'm looking at your status photo, I really feel like appreciating you a lot. It's with such a beautiful smile on your face. You are really looking nice. So
Thank you. Thank you for your compliments, ma'am.
thank you, ma'am. Right? Thank you for your engagement also. So what we feel is, as ma'am has rightly said, India is a diverse nation. It has been a diverse nation since the very inception of the idea of India. If we talk about it earlier, what we had were empires or the kingdoms. बहुत पीछे समय में जाएंगे तो हमें छोटे बड़े एम्पायर्स मिल जाएंगे, किंगडम्स मिल जाएगा, जैसे अशोकन एम्पायर था, और द चोला एम्पायर, और द पांड्यास, और वॉट एवर. बट यू सी द आइडिया ऑफ इंडिया एज अ नेशन वाज नॉट देयर. फाइन. But since we developed this idea, we have seen that the idea of India as a nation, or let's say when we started thinking of the subcontinent in terms of a nation, so we have had the diversity in this nation, right? This diversity has helped us grow economically, because economically on a global level, what we see is that from some part of India, from Dhaka, let's say, muslin was going, or from Kashmir, it was the Pashmina shawls that were going, or from South, it were the spices that were going. So every region, because of its diverse nature, climatic conditions, skill set of people, was producing something that was so excellent that it was in huge demand in the international market. And this diversity thus has helped us thrive economically as well on the global scale. And to the extent, that let's say in the beginning, when we say the world economy started, it was India and China which were the center stage of all economy. So this diversity has contributed a lot in making our country that rich, that powerful. And we survived despite this diversity. Even today, you see, I mean, despite diversity, we are a united nation, because the core values of all cultural groups here, all cultural groups across different regions, they are harmony, respect for each other, tolerance, unity. And these core values helped us survive as a nation despite our differences. In fact, these values ensured differences do not become divisions. These values are the only hope that can help us survive today's madness. Are the values given by our cultural groups. So whenever you see people feel stressed, whenever people feel so much of anxiety, ultimately what do we turn back to? We turn back to our wisdom. We turn back to our methods of meditation. We turn back to music, right? And in so many homes, especially women, either turn back to cooking also, because that's a huge stress buster, and Indian cooking is quite elaborate. So, that gives you a sense of settling down somehow, that you're creating something. So the diversity has helped us survive. The diversity has helped us fight even the difficult times in life. Also, as ma'am rightly said, that we cannot grow if we don't respect other cultural communities. So this is important. Respecting other cultures is important. Respecting other cultures is important for growth and unity. To progress as a nation, we need to have more united society which thrives on the idea of Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, so that not only we contribute to make others' life better, but can equally be benefited from cultural groups of a different nationality. Now here I can share the example of Sri Lanka. What happened in Sri Lanka, I guess most of us must be aware, as we are teaching class 10 and we have the case study. We had two communities in Sri Lanka, the Tamils and the Sinhalese. And the Sinhalese really did not bother much about the existence of Tamils. Ultimately, what happened was this civil war. So Sri Lanka actually did not respect this difference, right, or the diversity. So what happened was civil war, and civil war ultimately led to a major setback to Sri Lanka's economy. And you see the situation in which Sri Lanka finds itself today can be traced back, I guess, to those issues where Sri Lanka ignored its unity and thus ignored its growth. Obviously, ignorance of growth was not intentional, but that is what comes in the process, that if we don't bother about the unity, ultimately we are fighting these issues, and you never know, I mean, where does Sri Lanka land ultimately. Next reason why we should have this is politics of social division. Why we should be culturally sensitive towards other cultures is politics of social division. The conflicts due to politics of social division have increased. What is politics of social division? Politics of social division is when political parties, they take up sides of different social groups, raise their demands in politics. So that is politics of social division. So conflicts due to politics of social divisions have increased. Political parties try to polarize the society, that is dividing the society in different factions during elections to secure their vote banks. Parties play on vote banks. So what do they do during elections? You must have seen and realized that during elections you have more of a culture or community or religion based messages, that vote for this party, vote for that party, they are going to save us, they are a threat to us. So political parties try to polarize their vote banks, right? But this leads to violence in so many cases. We had such instances in Rajasthan, in Udaipur, one such instance happened. In fact, in UP, many such instances have been happening. Though, I mean, I guess even Manipur, is a big example why no effective measure was taken and the state, I guess, was left burning. The people faced so much of violence, so much of harassment. It's not about one specific community. This is right or this is wrong. It is basically about human beings and they are suffering. So all these things, to some extent, I would not say exactly to 100% extent, but yes, to some extent, these things happen due to politics of social divisions. And parties, become silent watchers, or the governments become silent watchers, or at times they add even fuel to the fire so that the issue becomes too big for the government to handle, or the government ignores the issues and the people are left at the mercy of God. Right. So political parties try to take sides, justify their illogical demands, and thus sensitizing students is very, very important because they are the future citizens. So sensitizing students would reduce the chances of such instances and conflicts in future. When I say the chances of reducing conflicts in future, I take the next point, that is the positive use of resources. The government has so much of money, we have our own army, we have other resources which we normally use at the times of crisis. The government has to deploy army. For example, in Manipur, let's say the government had to deploy army. But won't it be better that the army protects the borders of the nation rather than solving the internal conflicts? Why should we have these conflicts? So, we need to put our resources to a better use. We need to come out of all these smaller infights and issues so that the resources that the government has, the money, so much of money is wasted, so much of manpower is wasted. When we have terrorism or other kind of movements, the government has to pump in so much of money. So instead of the government putting its resources where we are just trying to normalize the situation, I guess if we have cultural sensitivity towards other culture, the government will have more time to think about the positive developments, about the good projects that it can take up. And, people have a huge role to play in that, right? So it's cultural sensitivity is important so that the government is able to use resources for the growth of the nation rather than trying to stop the infights or fighting the problems that have arisen due to our insensitivity towards other cultures. Here, I'll just take one example, especially when we have this farmers laws, but agricultural laws were passed, and the farmers in Punjab, Haryana, UP, they were protesting. Now, so many people, they were, I would say, their reaction towards the farmers, that why these people are sitting on roads, they have ACs, they have, wonderful houses, or they have luxury cars. So why do they need to fight? My simple question for all of us, won't we fight if an inch of our land would be taken away? So instead of thinking logically about a group, people started thinking in forms of that I support this party, so I should be against the farmers. I support that party, so I should be in favor of the farmers. And the government had to invest huge amount of money as well, right, in stopping these people. So somewhere we need to, create that sensitivity where, let's say, people don't have to come on roads, and the government also can pay its attention for better projects, for building better things and for better growth. My next reason why I feel cultural sensitivity towards others is important is power sharing. Power sharing is the very basis of democracy. When we sensitize people or students toward other different groups, we also make them think of others as equals when we talk of power sharing. This creates ease in power sharing arrangements in the system. When we sensitize children, okay, this culturally different group will exist. It is there to exist. So when we teach children this sensitivity, when we make them treat others as equals, we are also able to, we are also able to do power sharing in a more comfortable way, right? It becomes easier for the government as well as other agencies to share power amongst themselves. You see, all linguistic groups have survived together beautifully in India after the inception of linguistic states. After independence, when the linguistic states were to be created, so it was like India would be divided, it would be fragmented, the union will break down, the Gujarati speaking people will go one side, and the Bengalis will go on other side, or the Tamilians will go on other side. So there were huge worries. But what we have seen, because all these groups have been respected, because all these groups have been given power through their state governments or through recognition by constitution. So these states, these linguistic groups are very comfortably living or happily living in India, I guess. And the groups may have some infights, but by so far, no linguistic group, I guess, has demanded a separation from the Union of India. There may be some infights, but not that, okay, this linguistic group wants to create a nation of its own. I guess those are not the issues on a larger scale. Smaller scale, I agree, there may be issues, but not on a very, very larger scale, right? Now, lack of this leads to strengthening of the social and political systems as well. Lack of it can lead to partitions, and the two-nation theory, which led to partition of India, was to a large extent floated because of lack of power sharing between Congress, Hindu Mahasabha, and the Muslim League.
Huh?
Ma'am, you want to say? Okay. Then we have the stereotypes. Stereotypes about different cultural groups are created over time. This restricts our vision, and we start looking at people from a narrow approach. Example we have of the British rule, British rule made us believe all fair-skinned people are superior or advanced or modern. This has made us look in awe towards white people, whereas blacks and browns are down upon in so many groups. Somebody speaking in English is automatically considered knowledgeable. When we see a rural woman, in traditional attire, we don't expect her to speak in English or drive a luxury car. The same way, most of us believe that the tribals are backward people. We don't even treat them with respect, or we don't even treat them as equals because of the stereotype that has already been created. Now, a big reason why we need to sensitize children is the diversity in class. The classrooms are not homogeneous classrooms any longer. People move from one area to another area. People come from different cultural backgrounds. So the classrooms today are more diverse than they were. Right? Children are coming from different backgrounds, thus different experiences of growing up. A child from military background will have a different experience than a child from civilian background when we talked about gender discrimination, women not being respected or not given equal opportunities. Likewise, when we talk to a child whose family is first generation urban, he or she will have a different perspective about human relations rather than a child who has been living in city for generations. Now, why critical thinking? Right? Critical thinking here is important. Critical thinking here is important. As we have seen, we need to sensitize children. So one way of sensitizing children is by developing this critical thinking. Use of logical thinking is really important. So the most, ma'am, I request you people to mute yourself, because there is so much of background noise. And yes.
Lovepreet ma'am.
Pardon, ma'am?
Lovepreet ma'am is.
Okay, yes. So, ma'am, please. Yes, please take care. Okay. The use of logical thinking is very important. The most important task for a teacher of social science is to discuss the logic behind processes, concepts, or rituals, providing a scientific explanation using facts and data to prove a point rather than just making a viewpoint. As teachers, we have to take up this responsibility of explaining things to to the students. Social science as a subject, has really evolved with the coming of the new NCERT textbooks, because the textbooks do not focus much on merely mugging up dates. These textbooks are talking more about the processes, the concepts, the factors behind these processes, what led to these movements. So that is more important, that we talk about the fact, the data. We tell children, how to reach on certain conclusions rather than giving the conclusions to them. So logical explanation, likewise, behind rituals can lead to respect for different cultural practices as it changes one's perspective. I just want to share one example here. One of my colleagues, she once asked me, that what's wrong with the farmers in Punjab or the people in Punjab? They keep on protesting whenever they find something is wrong. Now we have to understand the history and geography of the nation for that. You see, Punjab is on the borders. So whenever there was an attack from outside, whenever outsiders came to India, most of the times they came through Punjab. So it was the people of Punjab who over generations actually gathered that courage to challenge the authority. Okay, to deny the rules that they don't find justified. That is the culture. It is not that Sikhs are that violent. No, it is because of their location on the map of India or their geography that made them like that. In Punjab, they have a saying, Khadda Pidda Laheda, Baki Ahmad Shahida. Now, so many times we feel that Punjabi people, they spend a lot, they enjoy life a lot. Why are they like that? We need to understand. They're like that because they have faced so many attacks from the invaders from outside. They are the people, who would work so hard, save money, save their agricultural produce, and ultimately a foreign invader would come and loot everything and go back. So these people realized over time that there is no use that you save money. And that is why, I may be wrong, but what I have learned about Punjab is that people do live a lavish lifestyle. Paisa aata hai, so they buy good cars, they spend on home, they spend on lifestyle, because they feel that, there is no use saving money. And that is where it comes, like khada pida lahida, whatever you enjoy today, whatever you eat, whatever you wear, you enjoy today. बाकी अहमद शाहिदा, बाकी जो अहमद शाही अब्दाली आएगा, जो आपने जोड़ा है, वो तो अहमद शाह अब्दाली लूट के ले जाएगा. So whatever you have, enjoy that, Live life happily, stay happy so that you keep others happy. Right. So every cultural group has a reason behind the way it is behaving in a certain manner. Okay. Now here, when we have these logical explanations, behind things, so obviously we have respect for different cultural practices, and it changes our perspectives also. When we know why these people are not behaving in a certain manner, it's not because of their liking or disliking of a government or a person. It is in their history. It is their experience that has made them like that. So obviously we develop a different perspective towards them. I know I'm consuming too much of time, but one thing I really want here is, if any of the teachers, can you please explain any of the cultural practices which you feel is not much known to people, or let's say, from Tripura itself, we don't know much of things, or from Punjab or from South, anybody who wants to share? Or like, why do we have so much of sweets are especially popular from West Bengal as well as Gujarat? They have a tendency of cooking food items as sweet. Dal normally meethi hoti hai Gujarat mein. So why is that? Okay. These are a few questions which you can float to your students so that they can find out about different cultural groups, that why do they behave in certain manner. People in Gujarat, since it's a coastal state, face lots of salt. So too much of salt in the atmosphere, in the water that they have, and thus they add a bit of sugar to it, right? Likewise, in Rajasthan, we have lots of dry vegetables, like we make kar sangri, or like we have gatte ki sabzi, which are really, gatte ki sabzi really is not a vegetable, fresh vegetable, or like we make dal badiyan, papad वगैरह बहुत बनाते हैं, तो वो भी exactly एक सब्जी नहीं है, fresh vegetable नहीं है. Why we have all those kind of things as our food items? Because in Rajasthan, we do not have that much of water throughout the year that we can grow fresh vegetables. Whereas if you move towards, let's say, Haryana, Punjab, UP, you will find there is a difference in food. People in UP or Punjab or Haryana, they have more of fresh vegetables as parts of their food item. So these are a few things, which you can even give children to ask, research, and find out about. Okay, now the next thing is the role of teacher in all this. What can a teacher do to create this sensitivity or sensitize children towards the culture of other people? So the first important thing here is the 3 A's which every teacher should adopt in life. These 3 A's are: one is accept, second, acknowledge, and third, appreciate. So what do we accept, acknowledge, and appreciate? That is the difference between us as people, as cultural communities. Also, a clear distinction that difference is not division. When I'm saying the word difference, it is opposite to similar, right? Let's say women are similar to each other, but are different from men. So this is, in this context, I'm talking about difference. So a clear distinction that difference is not division has to be made. People can be different yet come together because of common grounds which they share. Now this is one very, I guess an example which is very close to my heart. Barack Obama was sitting for an interview at some point of time when he was the president of US. So the person who was taking his interview asked him, okay, so what does Barack Obama keeps in his pocket, right? So Barack Obama emptied his pockets. So there was a number of things. But one thing amongst all those things was an idol of Lord Hanuman. Now see a person sitting, so many miles away from India. A person who's an Afro-American. So probably he's not even American properly, fully American. Right. So an Afro-American who's the president of India, what connect do I have with him? My connect is that Lord Hanuman. So there are differences, yet there are common grounds that bring us together and make us respect each other, or have some bonding towards each other. So once we identify the differences, it's easy to acknowledge and thus appreciate them. So help children accommodate these differences. Second thing which a teacher must do is the objectivity. A teacher must be objective. It is important that we inculcate an objective and impartial attitude towards all cultural entities. Since the subject involves topics like caste in politics, or religion in politics, or fundamental rights, discriminations, discussions are bound to happen, and they must happen. Important part is that they happen with objectivity, right? Now, next thing, a teacher must work on facts. What is important is that we as teachers guide the discussions by providing facts and allow formation of an independent idea for the student rather than providing an idea to the student. The idea made by the student may be wrong, but when we find that the child is going wrong, we can provide some data, we can provide some facts, we can ask the child to research on the topic more, but we must allow the child to make his or her own opinion rather than giving an opinion to the child. And for this, we can also, try to inculcate the research of habit in students, giving them tasks like that. Then use of pronouns in the class. Again, this is very important. We have to be aware or conscious of the pronouns and adjectives that we use for any group of people or rituals or belief system. At times, we do express our personal likings or dislikings in class, which should be avoided at all costs. For this, CBSC, NCRT made a change, a very prominent change made by NCRT was that, for generations, the NCRT textbooks would address Prime Minister as he, President as he, or there was a chairman. So these things make children think that only a man can be a Prime Minister, only a man can head the meeting, only a man can be the president. So once the pronouns are changed, like now you find the NCRT books are talking she as a Prime Minister. Now, this small change can help children change their thought process. So the pronouns we use in class, the adjectives we use in class, we have to be very, very aware or conscious of these pronouns that we use. Then it's important that we identify stereotypes. For this, I conduct I find it interesting activity in the class. What I do is I ask children to close their eyes. Now, when they close their eyes, so I ask them, okay, now imagine a truck driver. Is the truck driver a male or a female? So normally the answer is that the truck driver is a male, right? Likewise, then I ask them, okay, a tribal person. So how do you imagine a tribal person? Do you visualize a tribal person dressed like us, or you imagine a tribal person, dressed with leaves and other kind of things? Right. So a low caste person, whether you imagine a low caste person as a rich or a poor person, right? A farmer. So a farmer you see in pata hua kurta pajama, or you see a farmer, in well suited, booted and all branded things. So when children come up with answers, you are able to identify the stereotypes that they have built over time. And probably you are not responsible for those stereotypes, but yes, you can contribute by breaking those stereotypes, right? That is the duty of the children. So we discuss these stereotypes and help children identify their thoughts about different groups. Now, breaking stereotypes by assigning different responsibilities to them in class, like, though nowadays women are becoming engineers, they are taking up technical side of education, but even then, we still have a huge proportion of women who find handling money or handling technology very difficult. Likewise, when you give art projects or when you want the class to be decorated, so it's normally the girls who would come up. Now, when you assign roles and responsibilities in the class, you can switch these roles and responsibilities. Like normally what I do in my classes, the smart boards are mostly handled by girls. so that they develop that confidence. They also learn, they should understand that they have to do it. That's a part of their being an individual. Technology has nothing to do with your gender. It has to do with your intellect. Likewise, for boys, whenever it's time to decorate these soft boards, so it's the boys who have to do it. So they also have to understand, like these days, an ad also is being very popular, that cooking is essential. It's a skill. It's not related to your gender. It's related to your requirements. So a person, whether male or female, should learn how to cook. If you watch these ads, a number of Bollywood people are promoting this idea that cooking is not about a gender. Cooking is a skill set. In fact, in so many tribal communities, the males do cook, and they do learn. The boys also learn the similar set of skills. So it's important that we break those stereotypes by assigning different roles. Next is the reason the role that teachers can play is, we can create heterogeneous groups of students, and we need to talk about how people are similar and different instead of, superior and inferior. And to create that balance, that people are not superior or inferior, what we can do is, we can make heterogeneous groups class activities. Kirti ma'am, Kirti ma'am, Kirti ma'am. Ma'am, can you please mute yourself? Okay. Now we can initiate discussions on uncomfortable topics in class, right? We do have to do that. And yesterday it was a very wonderful point taken up by one of the speakers, that it is important to make children talk about uncomfortable topics, right? That clarifies their doubts, that clarifies their minds. Also, as teachers, while students are doing those discussions, we can guide them. Like building up of Ayodhya temple on such a large scale, declaring a holiday on the day of that Pran Pratishtha of that Murti. This was an uncomfortable topic for the students to discuss. But we did take a discussion in the class, and so many times children are able to see the logical aspect of it. So many times they talk in favor, they talk against, but what is important is that we allow them to create their own idea. We allow them to create their own mindset using the logics and the reasons given by different groups or students. Now here again, Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat activities taken up under pairing states. That also can be used to create cultural sensitivity among students. And through these activities of pairing states, Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, we can give projects, to students where they can research, they can work in groups, and ultimately when they work in groups, they also understand how everyone is equal. When CBSE had come up with this idea of group projects. So one interesting thing that happened among students, which we observed, few students came from, rich backgrounds. Few students were good at art. Few students were good at language. Few students were good at research. So the entire project work was divided. Okay, there were students who would pay for everything. Okay, you buy whatever material you want to buy, but I'm not good at language, I'm not good at other things, but obviously I can contribute in my own way. The child would accompany the journey, would see others work and learn in the process. But the child was very clear, mera handwriting acha nahi hai, mera artwork acha nahi hai, so I can't do much of it. Okay, so that is how when we make children work in group, we can also make them understand that each one of us is important. I'll show a small video, a poem, just to understand that every section of society, every cultural group is important for us. Just a small poem.
पापा देश चलाता है। नहीं है नेता, लेकिन देश को वो चलाता है। वो डॉक्टर भी नहीं है, लेकिन रोग भगाता है। मेरा पापा देश चलाता है। वो पुलिस में भी नहीं है, लेकिन देश की गंदगी मिटाता है। वो आर्मी में भी नहीं है, लेकिन गंदे शैतानों से जंग लड़कर आता है। मेरा बाबा देश चलाता है। अगर नहीं जाएगा मेरा बाबा काम पर, तो रुक जाएगा इंडिया का हर घर। ना बनेगा खाना, ना होगा नहाना, सड़कों पे मच जाएगी भगदड़। बच्चे स्कूल नहीं पहुंचेंगे, ना ही डॉक्टर अस्पताल, मंत्री मंत्रालय नहीं पहुंचेंगे, और पूरे देश का हाल हो जाएगा बेहाल। हम सब की जिंदगी को आसान बनाता है। मेरा बाबा वो काम करता है जो देश का कोई भी बाबा करना नहीं चाहता। मेरा बाबा देश चलाता है।
Now you see, though this poem so far is just a part of it, due to paucity of time, I'm not playing it full. But even this small portion gives us a message that every group of this society, every member of the society is important for us. And that is what we need to teach our children. That, you can't survive in isolation. We'll need other members of the society. We don't need to see them as high or low, as this child talks about. The father, probably they belong to a low caste, and the person cleans the sewerage system. We may look at this community as a very low community. We may not respect them, but as he talks about, the country would come to a standstill if this person does not perform his task well. Right? So we need to understand and make children understand that every single individual contributes equal to the growth of this nation, and thus we need to respect them, we need to be sensitive towards them. Another video, last one, to give a clear message, which is loud, that this diverse nation still needs to come together.
मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा, तो सुर बने हमारा। सुर की नदियाँ हर दिशा से बह के सागर में मिले। बादलों का रूप लेकर बरसे हल्के हल्के। मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा, तो सुर बने हमारा। मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा। म्यान तरद नहीं म्यान तरद, इकवट बनिए सान तरद।
तेरा सुर मिले मेरे सुर के नाल, मिलके बने एक नवा सुरगार। मिले सुर मेरा तुम्हारा, तो सुर बने हमारा।
मुंहिंजो सुर तुंहिंजे सां प्यारा मिले तॾहिं, गीत असां जो मधुर तरानो बणे तॾहिं।
सुर का दरिया बह के सागर में मिले,
बदला का रूप लेके
बरसन होले होले।
நம் இருவரின் சுரமும் நமதாகும். ನನ್ನದನಿಗೆ ನಿನ್ನ ದನಿಯ ತೀರಿದಂತೆ ನಮ್ಮದನಿಯ ನಾ ಸ್ವರಮು ನೀ ಸ್ವರಮು സംഗമ മൈമന സ്വരങ്കാവതരിച്ചേ എന്റെ സ്വരവും നിങ്ങളുടെ സ്വരവും ഒത്തുചേർന്നു നമ്മുടെ സ്വരമായി
So I guess the message is quite loud and clear, subtle background is the diversity that we have. But on the front, the message is Mile Sur Mera Tumhara. All of us come together as a nation. All of us respect the differences, stand united, and work towards the progress of nation in harmony with each other. And that's, I guess, the whole purpose of creating cultural sensitivity. On this note, thank you so much, everyone. Jai Hind. I hope you enjoyed the talk.
Thank you, Madam Sunita. It was a nice presentation. Great job on your presentation. Your preparation and confidence really shown. Again, thank you once again, ma'am. Now, Madam Trishita Ghatok will sum up the session of Madam Sunita. Ma'am.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Thank you.
You can start.
Good afternoon and good evening to all the teachers and dignitaries present on this platform. I am Trishita Ghatak from Bhavan Tripura Vidyamandir, and I am very much thankful to the authorities for giving me the opportunity to sum up the session conducted by one of the famous educationists, Madam Sunita. Firstly, I would like to thank Madam Sunita for such an enlightening presentation on critical thinking and cultural sensitivity in social science. At the very beginning, Madam had presented a wonderful video on the fact that diversity is totally natural. This presentation had been an extraordinary learning experience. And through the participation of teachers, we have understood that we human beings are totally interdependent. No one can work alone in the society. As Madam had highlighted, that critical thinking refers to the deliberating, scrutinizing, and evaluating ideas using reasons, reflections, and analysis. The act of thinking critically involves moving beyond just simple understanding and going further by questioning its source, its production, and its presentation in order to expose potential bias or a person's subjectivity. As Madam Sunita had described through her presentation, cultural sensitivity refers to being aware that cultural differences and similarities exist in society. Cultural sensitivity is needed to understand the influence of other cultures, the transfer of knowledge of culture, discipline, identity, and others. Cultural sensitivity towards our own culture and towards culture of other people, both at the personal and community level, is very much important. Again, through a video presented, we can grasp this concept. When we question how to create cultural sensitivity, we see that the role of family and society and the role of school and teachers takes precedence. Another question that had been taken up by Madam Sunita was why cultural sensitivity towards others is important. The major reasons that were presented are politics of social division, power sharing, stereotypes, growth and unity, need for diversity, and core values. Madam had discussed this question with the burning topic of the state of Manipur and its condition. When we come to the role of teachers, they have the biggest role after the parents. As school is called the second home, teachers the second parents. To make the students culturally sensitive, the teachers must accept, acknowledge, appreciate the difference between people and community. They should be objective, identify the stereotypes if present in the classroom, initiate discussion on uncomfortable topics, make everyone feel important, and break stereotypes by assigning activities and duties in class. As Madam has given an example that she takes an activity where she asks the students to close their eyes and imagine a particular duty or responsibility of a truck driver or another person, of a defensive person. Such activities help us to identify and break the stereotypes and make the students more culturally sensitive. Also, the art integration projects, which pairs up two states, help the students to acclimate to a different culture. With the poem recitation video presented, we can understand the message that no one is better than the other. Everyone is very much equally important in the smooth running of the society. And we should, as teachers, be teaching the same message to the students. To conclude, I must reiterate, Mile sur mera tumhara, to sur bane hamara. Thank you.
Thank you, Trishita ma'am. Your words are well structured and easy to follow. Once Henry Ford, who is a well-known inventor, said, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. With this great quotation, we are going to end our today's program. Thank you all for your participation and engagement. Let's apply what we have learned today to make a positive impact. See you again tomorrow on the same platform at same time.